I'm going to put it bluntly to you and put the question that we had in the introduction. Is this a victory for Iraq or for neighboring Iran?
Well, so far, I don't think it's a victory just yet. But assuming that things go according to plan and that Tikrit is liberated, I think the main thing that people need to remember is that there are 200,000 people who are forced to leave Tikrit by ISIS, and that if this plan does go according to plan, if everything goes well and the city is liberated, it's mainly a victory for them, and that these people will be allowed to go home. That's something that people really need to remember, is that this isn't just a city that figures on a map. This is where people live. This is their homes, their livelihoods, the schools that their children go to, the hospitals that they've been treated in, et cetera, et cetera. If they're allowed to go home, that would be a huge victory for them, a huge relief to them. I've been speaking to displaced people from Tikrit now for 8 months, for the time from the time when ISIS occupied Tikrit in June, so it's been 8 months now. And all these people say to me every day is, all we want is to go home. A lot of people have said, I prefer to live live on the street in my hometown than to be displaced for the rest of my life. That's something that really people need to remember. But to
Zaid, let me pick up on that point. After the head of the U.S. military expressed concern for the local Sunni population, a stern warning out of Baghdad this Thursday from the Prime Minister himself. Let's take a listen. All right.
There are infiltrators who want to tarnish our victories by committing crimes and serious violations against the security and property of people. Therefore, we have issued strict orders to the security forces, police, and army commanders, and Ashid al-Shabi commanders.
All right, that's strict a warning to lay off the local population. On that score, Zaid Ali, how's the Prime Minister doing?
Well, I mean, to be honest, not so badly. I mean, there have been some images that have been circulating on social media, on Twitter and Facebook and so on and so forth, that show that specific incidents of people being killed, random killings, and houses being torched. Most of those videos, as always, come from different conflicts, different countries, and have nothing to do with Tikrit. Some of them are accurate, regrettably. But if you look, by and large, so far, the information that we have on the ground is that Tikrit, most of Tikrit is still standing, despite the fact that there are violent combats that are taking place between two fighting forces, two serious fighting forces. And if Tikrit is it's liberated while it's still standing, that would be a major achievement. Something else that people need to remember, that it's not just the government that has been telling people to lay off, but also the Marja'i in Najaf. I'm not a religious person, so I don't subscribe to any particular religious point of view. But the Marja'i in Najaf has also been sending people to the front lines, religious scholars to the front lines, also telling people you need to remember that there's a humanitarian and religious background to all this, and you have to be careful not to engage in acts of revenge, et cetera, et cetera. Those are facts that people don't like to acknowledge, right? Something else that's important to remember is that in your introduction, you mentioned that there are thousands of Shia militiamen that are part of this operation to liberate Tikrit. That's true, but there are also thousands of Tikritis who are part of this operation too. That's something that no one ever talks about. There's up to 5,000 Tikriti, former police officers, former soldiers, who are part of the popular mobilization forces to liberate the city. And there are also Sunni Arabs, to use the term, who are part of the regular armed forces, who are part of the operation too. And the plan involves allowing for Tikritis to reoccupy their city and to reoccupy the security positions within their city